Welcome to Small Craft Cruising. I'm Kurt Ratzlaff and we are going to Catalina today. We're starting off in Long Beach, as you can see, and our boat for the trip is going to be a 25-foot 1976 O'Day 25. 10 years ago, I stood in this very parking lot with a 19-foot Hunter to brave the crossing, as I put it. And the 25 is going to be able to do this way better, or at least it could in 1976. Let's see how this 50-year-old piece of equipment holds up today.
Prepping and launching a 25-foot boat is going to be a lot more difficult than a 19-foot, especially since this is a fixed keel and the 119 was a water ballast. This trailer comes with an extendy tongue that is exactly the length it needs to be that my tires just touch the water as the boat slips off the trailer. Once in the water, this 25 is immediately noticeable as worlds more stable than the 19, and the extra 6 feet gives us so much more deck space that we just never had on the 19-foot. Our first night was spent in the water right next to White's Island because we didn't quite make it in time to try and cross over. We didn't want to arrive in Catalina on a new boat we've never been on before at night. So we just kind of camped out here for the first night, and early the next morning, but not as early as we would have liked, we set off for Catalina. I have my lamp hanging there because the mast light decided to stop functioning, and that was our little save. The conditions were glassy smooth to start, and so we were just motoring along. Now the forecast called for 10 to 12 knot winds, which I thought was a nice way to get started on a, kind of a discovery little cruise here. And that forecast quickly became 15 to 20 knot winds. And I have not sailed a boat in about 8 years, and the person I was with this was their second time in a sailboat. So it was a very rude awakening, if you will, for two rather novice people. My biggest surprise was, despite this rig being not quite rigged right and our skills being far from, well refined, we still got 7 knots out of this 25-footer, and that is something neither of us believed, just how fast this vessel was, because even at the best I ever got out of that 19-foot was nowhere near 7 knots, and so I didn't know a 24-foot could do that fast. Then you look at a Beneteau 40 just flying by you and you realize that 7 knots isn't really all that fast at all. But you know what? Our little 25 did it, and that's impressive to us. However, we eventually made it to Catalina, very much still above the water, and right about here is where I realized I had taught my crewmate docking, but not how to grab a buoy. However, after some worried looks from our neighbors, we got on the mooring, safe and ready for dinner. After a surprisingly well night's sleep, it's the next morning and it's time to try this sailing thing again. Hopefully with a little more skill and finesse this time. Now, this Lair outboard is one I've had for many years. It is unfortunately a 15-inch shaft, which is fine for getting around the marina, but very not so fine when you get waves and that prop comes right out of the water. It's time to start saving for a little better of a solution, as you can see. Well, we put a few heavy things in the stern, and that gave me just enough of a bite on that propeller to get us about 4 to 5 knots out of this boat. So we figured, heck, let's start going around this island and looking for some wind. Now, people thought I was downright crazy for taking a 19-footer to Catalina, and there are lots of people who would still think I'm crazy for taking a small 25 to Catalina, but I still gotta say, this boat really handles its own. One, in ways that the 19-foot could never dream of, but two, the designer of this boat wanted a maximum trailerable cruiser, and that is exactly what we got, and we could not be happier with the way this cuts through the water and just does its job as a sailboat, even when it's under power. Now, unfortunately, shortly after this clip was filmed, the wind picked up straight ahead of us, and the little 5-horse just wasn't enough push to keep us making forward progress, so we just turned around, threw up the jib, and just had a nice little casual sail home. I specifically chose the O'Day 25 over the Catalina because of the fixed keel swing setup here, which I find is more stable and better than the Catalina's design. While that 5-horse is more than adequate to get me around the marina, it is painstakingly inadequate for 30-mile trips across the Catalina and back, because the trip home, there was not enough wind to sail at all. We were doing maybe half a knot, and so we had to motor on that little 5-horse all the way across, and we got there, but boy did it take a while. As you can see, we've got a 5 gallon propane like you get in a barbecue, and that was enough. We had just a tiny bit left to get us back on the trailer. With the trip over, we got a really good idea of what this boat can and can't do and what it needs. Being 50 years old, it needs things. New boats need things, old boats need more things, and this one's no exception. I'm very, very happy with this purchase, and I cannot wait to make more content with this boat and to go places and show you guys everything. Thank you for watching Small Craft Cruising. I am Kurt Ratzlaff, and I hope to see you out on the water with me sometime.